Good gentleman from District 13.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask unanimous consent to dispense the further reading of House Bill 291.
Without objection, the gentleman has the floor to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the body. Also, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to note Rule 80 as well.
Your declaration under Rule 80 will be noted in the journal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the body. The genesis of this legislation goes back to April of 2020. My brother and I, on April 1st, decided to purchase a company. We'd been employees of our parents' company all of our lives and gave them an opportunity to buy a business, and our parents were not wanting to buy a business at this point in their life. They said, no, we're done. If you guys want to go out and buy a business, feel free, go ahead and do that. So April 1st, my brother and I bought a business, and a couple of weeks later, I was sitting in that business when the gentleman on the second floor had to make a very difficult decision in dealing with the pandemic, and that is to restrict business. And I remember a couple of weeks into that declaration thinking, this is a very concerning point for our state to be in. My brother and I haven't even owned a business for 4 weeks yet. We've put up capital. We've put up a lot of risk. And yet we're being told that our business could be closed if it's deemed unessential. Fortunately, we were an essential business, but we started down a path that I think was very unhealthy for the state of Idaho, and especially for business owners in the state of Idaho. We as the government began to determine which businesses were essential and which businesses were not essential, which employees were essential, which employees were not essential. You know, psychologists will tell you that within 5 minutes of meeting a new stranger, men will ask, what do you do for employment? Because part of our ego, part of our pride is tied up with, and our identity is tied up with what we do for an occupation. So within the first 5 minutes of conversation, at some point you're going to ask that individual, what do you do? Can you imagine if you were told that your business or your career was non-essential? I can't imagine going home to my wife that night and saying, honey, I'm sorry, but the government has determined our business is no longer essential. Or the business has determined my career choice is no longer essential. I don't believe that's what our founding fathers had in mind when they formed this country. I'd also remind you of what has happened in states like New York, California, Texas, where bar owners, individuals that own healthcare facilities, gyms, have tried to open their businesses that have been fined. Here in Idaho, my barber shut down his shop. And I called him up. I said, hey, I've got a funeral I need to go to. I need to get a haircut. He said, Brent, I can't cut your hair. I said, what do you mean? He said, we've been told that if we open up our business, we will lose our barber or cosmetology license. I said, man, not in Idaho. There's no way. So I called an individual that sits on that board that I've sponsored legislation with before and ran that to ground to ensure that that wasn't going to happen. But they had enforcement individuals out in the field telling individuals that they were going to lose their barber cosmetology license. I received calls from folks that were told they would lose their liquor license. I don't drink. I'm not a drinker. But those that are would like to have the ability to go and enjoy a drink. They couldn't do that. We as the state kept our liquor stores open. We determined that our business as the state was essential. But we determined that bar owners, restaurant owners, their businesses were not essential. It's a sad day. This particular piece of legislation is designed to prevent that ever from happening again in the state of Idaho. So should an emergency be declared in the state of Idaho, this provides a business bill of rights for our business owners and predictability that they can know with certainty that their license is not going to be taken away, it's not going to be threatened to be revoked, and the enforcement provision is on page 2, lines 5 through 8. One thing that I have learned in the last 9 weeks here in the legislature is how strongly the government values its emergency order. So the way this law is written is if someone's business license, occupational license, liquor license, cosmetology license, etc., is threatened or revoked, the emergency declaration ends immediately. So if the gentleman on the second floor enforces an emergency declaration moving forward, and an overzealous government employee decides to go into a business and say, you no longer can operate this business, you have to shut it down. Even though that's a local enforcement official, the gentleman on the second floor's emergency order would be null and void. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it puts some certainty for business owners and provides some predictability as they move forward in these uncertain times, that they can know that Idaho stands for business, and Idaho wants to make sure that business owners have a Bill of Rights. And with that, I'd ask for your green light. Debate is open.
Is there further debate? John from 28.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to speak to the bill.
You have the floor.
This doesn't always happen in this chamber, but if you'll notice, this bill has a definite and distinct whiff of freedom to it that we don't always see, and I would encourage your positive vote.
Thank you. Is there further debate? John from 5.
First off, just to declare Rule 80 on this as well.
Your
Second,
declaration will be noted in the journal. I'm
Thank you.
assuming this will become a large class of people, and so I'm going to give you all King's X or Speaker's X, or just recognize that this is a large class, and so we all don't need to do this. Thank you. Go ahead and debate.
thank you. To debate in favor of the bill, as we looked at what 2021 or 2020 brought on to us, the big box stores, all of your big chain corporations made bank on that. All the small corporations and the small businesses are the ones that took the biggest hit. And so I think it's important that we stand up for those small businesses and that we take a stand and say, we're here for you. We're here to take care of you. And so for that reason, I will be voting a yes on this.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 18,
Thank you, Speaker, to debate against the bill.
have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I recognize this past year has provided several new issues that we've had to address, one of the things I want to caution is when we move forward with legislation that unfortunately is knee-jerk to or reactive to the issues at hand, we are really putting and constraining our abilities to actually respond to other emergencies that are more common, ones that we face in Idaho all the time, let it be floods or let it be fires. And so while I recognize our businesses and all of our businesses are essential, and it really is a difficult place for a government to have to make the decisions on what businesses should close for what reasons, I'm afraid that this does have unintended consequences for our ability to respond accordingly at other emergencies that are too common practice or too common here in Idaho. And with that, I will be voting no.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 18.
Not on. Sorry about that. Thought I hit it. Yeah, it's particularly section 4 on page 2 that causes concerns for me because I could see many really common sense precautions that would have to be taken in an emergency if there's, raging forest fires, floods, nuclear waste fallout, any number of things that would make a region unsafe to be in or operate in. A necessary corollary of that would be that you'd probably have to close the businesses in that area just as a matter of basic public safety, and it seems to me that Section 4 of this bill would preclude that from happening. So I do worry that we would be tying our hands from engaging in really necessary safety measures in the future.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, will the gentleman from 13 please stand and close the debate?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the debate today. And to address the concerns brought up by the good minority leader, I don't believe it's the government's job to tell that business owner under an emergency condition, whether it's a forest fire or a flood, what their hours of operation should be. If there is a flood or there's a forest fire, business owners are very savvy individuals. And I don't think that they need the government telling them what hours of operation they have, and they'll make that decision whether they should remain open or not, whether they want to risk that or not. And I would trust the wisdom of business owners to make the right decision in those type of situations. So I'd ask for your green light. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it, I guess. Yep. Debate is closed. The question before us is, shall House Bill number 291 pass? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will record their votes. There. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and read the pairs.
Harris votes aye. Necochea votes nay.
The vote count shows 54 in favor with 14 against and 2 absent. House Bill number 291 has passed the House and will be transmitted to the Senate.